Alright guys, ZFR back here again, and in this video we are going to be talking about Rick and Morty episode 3, which was titled Pickle Rick. So this episode was freaking amazing. Alright, just let me start by saying that this episode was amazing in all the ways I thought it was going to be and in all the ways I didn't expect it to be. First of all, the thing that really impressed me about this episode is how much it actually had to do with the overarching plot throughout this season, which is the divorce. And I want to talk about the divorce a lot more in this video and in a different video later on. So yeah, pretty much I loved how this still connected to that in a really well done way. So pretty much the theme of this episode is Pickle Rick, and pretty much Rick turns himself into a pickle so he doesn't have to go to family therapy with Beth and the kids. So Beth is kind of she's kind of suspicious of it at first, but Rick kind of lies to her and says, "Nah, I just did this to challenge myself or whatever." Um, but he's lying, and Morty is and Summer both suspect that he's lying, especially since there's like a syringe he had set up to drop on him to turn him back into a human like 10 minutes after they left or something like that. So yeah, pretty much he lied to Beth's face and stuff, and Beth does get him back by taking the syringe with her and leaving him on the desk in the garage and stuff, and it just goes south from there. Like, the cat shows up, knocks Rick outside. Rick almost dies from the sun being too hot and stuff. Then it starts to rain, but then it rains too much and he gets swept away by the current into the sewers, and this is where the episode really starts to get wild. All right, is that really an airplane right now? Screw that airplane. But anyway, yeah, so this is where the episode gets wild, because I gotta admit, one of the things about this episode, it was pretty gross to watch Rick strangle that cockroach in that one scene. That was pretty gross, but alright. He pretty much strangled a cockroach with his mouth so he can open its head up and use it as a way to get around and stuff. And later on, next time you see him, you also see that he's built like this cockroach suit and stuff, which was also really cool. And while all this is going on, Rick, Morty, and Summer, they're at family counseling and stuff. They're just talking to the therapist and everything, and she's voiced by someone really well known. I forget her name. I don't know her that well. Susan something, but pretty much she's voiced by her, and the therapist instantly, as soon as Morty and them mention how Rick turned himself into a pickle before the session, she kind of picks up on it. And it's funny, because when they sold, it just goes to show you how much perspective matters, because when they sold the previews of this episode, you thought this was just going to be a goofy episode. You thought that this therapist was going to be a whack job, and you thought that Rick just had no good reason for turning himself into a pickle, or no relevant reason. He just did just to do it. So I like that everything here turned out to be much more relevant than you thought did. So she kind of homes in on Rick turning himself into a pickle, because he's kind of avoiding the family discussion and stuff, and she's kind of coming at from the perspective that Morty had. And what was it, episode 1 of this season, which was Rick Sank Rick Dempson, where Morty was pretty much like, Rick isn't a hero. He's an okay person, I guess, but he's more like a demon or a really messed up god. And I think the therapist was kind of going in that direction with what she was saying and stuff. So pretty much they're trying to get Beth to see, hey, Rick is cool and everything, but he's not someone you should be this in love with, that you should idolize that much. Which they're right, of course, because Rick will freaking leave you if it comes down to it. But anyway, it cuts back to Rick, and the rest of the episode is very Rick-centric. we pretty much see we get to see a bunch of rats show up, and Rick pretty much kills one of them and straps its body down for parts and stuff, and builds himself a rat suit. And then when the rest of the rats manage to get through the bars and stuff, he pretty much goes on rampage and murders a bunch of rats in the sewer. And it's a pretty violent scene. This episode overall is pretty violent. There's a lot of really gruesome, violent action scenes in this episode, which this episode does have a lot of action and stuff. So this ended up being a really good episode. Anyway, Rick kills a bunch of the rats. There's even a scene where he's like torturing the Rat King and stuff towards the end, and he kills him. And then he gets out of the sewer. He has the little rat scuba diver helmet or whatever on, and he pretty much gets out of the sewer through a toilet. And I don't know where he ended up. I really don't. I can't even tell you. All I know is that it looked like they were the Secret Service, but of Russia, because they all had Russian accents and stuff. So I guess he landed somewhere. I don't know. He couldn't have landed in Russia because they were still in the same city. So I really don't know what those dudes were. I don't know what kind of organization they were, but they were very close to something like the CIA, Secret Service, or whatever. They're very secretive, all right. But anyway, so Rick is trying to leave the building, and these guys are like, "Whoa, we can't let you leave." Something about him breaching a contract or whatever, or just breaching security. Like they don't want him to get out, I guess. So they pretty much try to kill Rick, but of course Rick isn't having it. So Rick pretty much starts gathering supplies, running around this building, dodging these dudes and stuff, and they're looking for him. And pretty much he ends up building this super awesome weapon. He ends up building this super awesome weapon that the ammo was actually batteries, and it shoots like this big laser, and he ends up killing a lot of these dudes, or pretty much all of them, really. I think they said there were like 32 guards or 34 in the building, and he pretty much killed all of them, and you got to see a lot of it. So yeah, that was all happening. He was just shooting holes through their heads, and they're cutting their legs off and stuff. And pretty much the leader is getting kind of nervous. So he goes in the back to this dude I guess they've been torturing for like 10 years and asks him for help and stuff. And then there's that whole situation where it's this supposedly super awesome criminal dude or whatever versus Rick. And this action scene was way too good, bro. I never expected in my life to see a good fight, such a good action scene between a man and a pickle. I never in my life did I expect to see something like that. So it actually was a pretty awesome action scene. But they end up teaming up in order to take down the leader of this whole little secret organization thing or whatever. And they pretty much blow the building up and everything and go their separate ways. And Rick has to get to Summer and Morty and Beth, because Beth still has the serum that turns him back into a human at this point. And if he doesn't get in the next few minutes, he's going to die. So he goes to a therapist, and the therapist starts questioning him and stuff, and he pretty much admits, yes, he did lie about the syringe and the serum, because he didn't want to come to the therapist session, because Rick kind of views himself as his own god in a way, I guess, because he's so smart that it's like a curse and everything to him. But anyway, he kind of gives his explanation on that. Then they all leave, and pretty much Summer and Morty want to go back to the therapist because they think she was doing a good job, and they think they still kind of need that therapy. But Beth is kind of unsure, and she gives Rick the serum back, of course, and they turn Rick back into a person. But yeah, Beth is kind of like, she's brushing them off. Like, she doesn't want to go back. She still kind of idolizes Rick, And you know, Rick kind of he doesn't come out right out and say it, but he says it in his own way. Hey, sorry for lying to you. I shouldn't have lied to you about the thing. Why don't we drop the kids off and go get a drink? And that's pretty much how the episode ends. And then, of course, in the end credit scene, we have the piano scene from the intro, which was awesome. And what's his name? Whoever he was, pretty much shows up to save them. The dude that Rick was fighting earlier. So yeah, it was an overall awesome episode. I really like how the divorce is really playing such a big part in the show right now. It feels like such a big event right now on this show that everything else is like kind of orbiting it, and I'm really liking that vibe. And just overall, this season definitely does feel darker so far. It does feel a little more mature, and like I definitely think this is going to be the best season of Rick and Morty by far, without a doubt. Like, if it keeps up on this route, because in my opinion, there hasn't been one bad episode yet out of the 3 this season. So, yeah, anyway, guys, that's all I really have to say about this episode. If I had to give this episode a score, I would probably give it a 9, because it was pretty much up there, about as high as you can get without being, like, perfection or a masterpiece or whatever. But it was a pretty awesome episode. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave likes and comments down below. And hit that subscribe button. Let's try to hit 200 subscribers soon. But for now, thanks for watching, guys.